So we've got Ben Bray on now. Obviously on the podcast kind of marathon. We've got a few more left. I'm flagging a little bit, but I'm going to keep kind of going strong. So obviously me and Ben Bray. How many years we known each other now? About 4. Known each other kind of 4 years. I kind of knew of Ben Bray. I didn't really kind of know him at that point. And I was like, I can't really figure him out. Like he's just this little influencer on Instagram. And we were out in town once, and I was actually still kind of coaching at the time, and I think I was just kind of getting into the mentoring side at that point, and I was just like, because Ben were obviously had an incredible kind of amount of potential, but it was kind of not utilising it to say the least. It was still the be fit bitch stuff at that time, and I was just like, what even is this? And obviously he was kind of coming in and selling like kind of plans and stuff like that, and he obviously taking home like a couple of K a month type stuff, and I was like, Ben, I said, like, if you come in and do this properly, you could seriously like take the fitness industry by storm. And it kind of basically started off where he was like dipping in and out of kind of competing, and he was like, oh yeah, I want to do a two-bro show in 6 weeks. So I was like, right, sound. So that's what obviously kind of the first time we worked together really, where he got ready for this kind of two-bro show. Come second, it was pretty ridiculous, but what he kind of did. But then it was like after that point, his physique and his page and his engagement and everything would have starting to go through like the absolute kind of roof. And one thing I've kind of said about Ben over the years is like he's always invested into his personal brand, and it just really kind of weren't utilising it in a business sense. Whereas now he's obviously smashing both. He's gone up past like 100k followers. Obviously built kind of a huge business on that side. But if you just want to introduce yourself, Ben, what do you do now? What's your plans for the future? And then we'll dive into some topics.
Of course, mate. So when I met you, I had a website where I was charging £30 a month for online coaching, touching probably 30 clients, 40 clients, like you said, not doing a great amount of income, but was managing a full-time job as well as a project manager that, before I met you, thought would be the future. And then, of course, bumped into you on the night out, and that's where it all changed. But as an introduction, so founder of Ben Bray Coaching now, and work with the UK's biggest brands, sponsored by Bulk and Boohoo Man, active at the moment. So over the last 2 years, it's been exponential growth, with obviously having you by my side, utilising you, your brain, your consultancy, and then growing the coaching forevermore. So it's been a tough couple of years that I've made significant sacrifice, but yeah, I think that's an introduction as far as it goes at the moment.
Yeah, Ben's like I think I've actually used Ben as an example quite a lot in the last in the last couple of days, like. In terms of like, you've got to get to that point to come in and take the risk. I always said I always said to Ben, like, he pushed it a little bit too far. Like he could have left his job 3 months before, but end of the day, if you're getting 2 fucking whack wages, then you're gonna kind of stretch it out as much as you can. But there obviously a kind of certain point where he was on that borderline point where I was like, look, he had a full-time job and he had a scaling kind of coaching business, and even despite, for example, like Ben, he was. There was no question that he was going to be a success. Like there was absolutely like the rate that he was kind of scaling, where he was going, it was absolutely kind of ridiculous. But he was still apprehensive to kind of come in and actually to kind of take that jump. And it's a case of like even for example, the people where you feel like, right, I've got absolute total utter kind of security. There is still that point of like, right, fuck it, I've just got to go all into this. Because it's just like when you've never been like self-employed before, you've never had kind of businesses, like you obviously don't really know about it, and when you're so used to this kind of having a wage and stuff like that, it's quite a difficult concept to think like, shit, like it's now kind of all on me. And it's like what Ben's done now, it's probably 15-20 times his wage from when he first started in the time that he's done it. But he'd have never kind of got to that point if he didn't have that kind of fuck it moment and that confidence. And I've always said like Ben, like I've always helped Ben in little bits of area, but Ben's success is Ben's success. It is his name, it's his page, it's been his kind of discipline and kind of work ethic, which has got him to where he is now, and obviously where he's going to be going. But what would you say is some of the best advice that you could give to kind of online coach or someone wanting to kind of get into the fitness industry from where like you were at your starting point?
I think the key to success now is perfecting your craft within any industry that you are in. But bringing this to the fitness industry, one thing that I made sure before I started pushing coaching and pushing nutrition and training was that I understood my craft. I knew how to get results. I knew how to manage a business from a uni degree, and that I was consistent. I showed up every day. I had a full-time job working 50 hours, and I was probably working 50 hours with coaching, managing 50 clients at this point, and both salaries being about the same. And there comes a point where you have got to take a risk, but you've got to mitigate that risk as much as possible, in my personal opinion. I think I see a lot of people just wanting to scale coaching for the wrong reasons. I think if you're truly passionate about something, I loved changing people's lives. I love watching the physiques develop. I loved watching them just build better, healthier habits and become a better person as a byproduct of that. And just by having that huge passion for helping people, that allowed me just to really scale. But in terms of answering your question and bringing that back, I think perfect your craft, ensure that you're consistent and you show up every single day. You're invested in the people that are investing in your business, because one thing that you stand out so much to the rest of the people in the mentoring game is you're invested in the person who comes into your business. I always say to people who ask me, what's Ben like as a mentor? I always say, if you buy into Ben's business, he will eat, sleep and breathe not only your business, but you as a person. So I think it's a case of when people come into the business, they're not just a number. A lot of coaches will scale businesses to 100 clients, 125 clients. But what you've got to ask yourself is, yes, that's good from a revenue standpoint and that's good from a financial, but are you really invested in that person? And that's when I think people and other coaches, as they scale, will start to come back down. People always say to me, how do you manage the clients that you do? And the truth is, I know every client personally who comes into the business who I work under, and that's because I give a fuck about them. I want them to progress. And if they're paying something for me and my business, I'm going to make sure they leave with it. So I think be passionate, be consistent, show the fuck up every day, but most importantly, be good at what you do.
Yeah, that's it. It's like there's a point, like I say that when you first start out, you've got to have a balance. Like there's a balance between like being a good coach, education, marketing, and everything kind of combined. Like the best thing that Ben had is Ben had a fucking absolute monstrous pool of people. It's just the fact that the only thing that he needs to do from that point was just simply show that he was actually good at his job. Because someone who's got 100,000 followers don't mean that they've got like 100 clients per month. It really kind of comes down to like, look, if you're going to come into the fitness industry, like actually make sure you do know what you're doing. And it's like, as we've kind of started developing the companies out, like that's the whole concept of CP education. So I want someone from level 2, level 3 going into kind of the academy. They're coming out of that point, like down the line, they're going to be in a position with the company side to come in and invest into the kind of business consultancy. It's that professional development pathway. And I've spoke about it kind of a lot of times, is like you've got to really kind of, you've got to reduce that kind of short-term quick gratification, because often it's really, really kind of not the case. We obviously live in an industry, in a world right now where like you post something on social media and the first thing you're thinking about is how many likes you're getting, how many views you're getting. But when it comes to actually coaching, it's not really a case of that, because it's simply about the journeys that you'll have with those clients. They might take months. They like some people like you work with maybe 4, 5, 6 months, and then you kind of get into that point of gratification to be coming out and obviously putting the results. And that in order to do that, you've got to actually love kind of your job. And I think that a lot of people say, and I know I've had clients as well, like just because they've got a big following on social media, they suddenly turn around and start coaching and they don't do anything with it, and they wonder why. And it's because they don't give a fuck about coaching in the first place.
You hit the nail on the head. You see people, and we'll not kind of bring TV shows into the perspective, but you see people come off TV shows and they've got millions in audiences and followers, and you'll see them come into the coaching field. Within a couple of months, I found out, and they're then pushing something else. And I think that's because, like you said, I think when you met me, I still had a decent amount of followers. I was still pushing like plus 10, 15K. I
think you had, yeah. You were under 20, and then you just went fucking mental, like about 6 months later, I think.
That wasn't yielding like revenue to a certain degree. What you've got to do is people will think, oh, he's got that many followers, that's why his coaching's a success. No, it's not. It's the years of studying, the years of consistency to get good at something. It's like if you're an electrician and you turn up to a Sparky job and you can't do that job because you're not qualified, you're not going to be able to do it. As a coach, people think they've got themselves in shape. Oh, superb, I've done a 6-week photo shoot, let's go and announce now that I'm an online coach. It's the easiest industry to step into, but to be successful at it, it's one of the hardest. And you know, within this industry, there's a pool of people who are doing extremely well, and you will know each one of those people. And that's because they've put the graft in, they've committed time, they've made sacrifices, they've studied, they've got good at what they do. And as a byproduct of all those combined, they're now successful. And you see people wanting a piece of that success. But if you actually step into the industry not wanting a piece of that success and actually perfecting your craft and getting good at what you do, you might end up with those top people.
Yeah, one thing that, again, it's a bit of an interest to kind of mean stuff as well. You've mentioned, obviously, you've hit these sponsorships, and they've had multiple kind of different sponsorships over the years. But like, first question, how much do you think that benefits you? Not just from like, obviously getting paid and stuff like that, but how much do you think that good sponsorships benefit you with your business? And what kind of advice would you give to someone wanting to kind of get those kind of opportunities?
I think the most benefit of working with big brands is credibility as well as networking. You see the people who I'm associated now with in Dubai, the biggest fitness influencers in the world. And I think that's come as a byproduct of being involved with these brands. In terms of sponsors, the harsh reality is you've got to have an audience. Brands aren't going to work with you if you've not got an audience. And the second thing is you need an audience who are invested in you as a person. I see people who are with Bulk, for example, who've got triple my followers, but earning Bulk quarter of what I am because they haven't got an invested audience. I've got a client base there which get a unique discount code which generate X amount per month for that company. And I think the biggest advice to people who want to work with big brands and want to get sponsored is invest into content. Yep. If you're not invested into content and you're not creating good, organic, unique content, then you're going to be the same as everybody else posting the same shit. You've got to stand out. And with content creation, that's what I do. I'll take a step back. And I think, what aren't people doing and what aren't people creating? And that's where these series came from. That's where these trips abroad came from. And yeah, you can look at like Mike Ferguson and co who create stuff like that. But I thought, do they do a series? No. So I put series spins on. And brands look at that. And I've kind of secured these deals, these brands now long term, because they can see the salary they pay is invested straight back into content promoting their brands. So I think in order to work with big brands or just get a sponsor, I think you've got to be a good coach with an incredible buy-in from your clients in order to earn them revenue, or have an absolutely incredible audience who are invested in you as a person.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. It's like some people just kind of jump into sponsorships for the sake of it. And in reality, like you can sometimes, if you connect yourself with someone which is not aligned with kind of your values and stuff like that, it can come and bite you in the arse big time. And it's like with you. So with you right now, like, one thing we've obviously seen it in the last like 12 months is you blasted up past above that kind of 100K mark. And what would you say was the reason that why you had that spurt? But then also, what do you think is kind of missing right now in terms of what kind of lessons are you getting from content creation at the moment?
So I grew from the start of the year from 27,000 within 4 months at 100,000, which was probably the quickest growth people have seen on social media since like someone going on Love Island or something like that. I think a reason for that was because I understood what worked for my audience, and as cliche as it sounds, me getting the kit off, tensing up in the mirror works.
Yeah, that's one thing I said to Ben from like day one. I said, you can create all fanciest content in the world, mate, but always get that post-workout toilet picture up.
And I had a couple of photos that went viral, knew that my audience liked that, so continued to push it. However, when I hit 100,000, things changed. I think I may have got shadow banned because I went from reaching 2.5 million people to 2,500 as soon as I hit 100,000, which was quite strange. However, that is now at 102,000, which has grown 2,000 in probably 4 months.
Still a lot. I fucking love those type of numbers.
But for me, that's like the slowest growth that I've seen, and even to a point where followers was going down. However, I know why that is, and that's because as an influencer, I want to be respected for me and my business, and I don't want to be known as that person who just gets his kit off all the time for likes, for engagement. I know that works, and when I want to get an upward trend in terms of followers and engagement, that's what I'll do. But I want to be known for good transformations. I want to be known for unique content. I want to be known as a brilliant online coach, not a posy influencer who's getting his cut off every 2 minutes. Yeah, I'll always keep that in.
Yeah. You've got to. Do you know what? It's 100%. One thing that I've learned the hard way. You have to play the social media game. Like it's part of business. Like if you've not got kind of reach, and if you've not got kind of an audience like that, then you're at an absolute limit. In fact, like I genuinely say, like, I don't know how I've done what I've done with 7,000 followers on Instagram. I generally don't. Like with the clients that I've landed, the businesses that I've kind of done, a lot of the stuff that I've kind of come in is all been on kind of referral base and stuff like that. If I had 70,000 followers now, I'd be a multi-millionaire. Like straight up. No, it wouldn't even be a question. Like my biggest hindrance is the social media side, and it is genuinely something that I do kind of struggle with, because say for example you've got like a coach or something like that, it's quite easy to kind of put out content in terms of growing a page, because you've obviously got your physique, you've got clients, you've got training footage, you've got all the shit that people want to see. Whereas for me, it's like if I take my kit off and put a picture on Instagram, I'm not getting a business consultancy client for that. I'm not selling an education course. So like all the high engagement stuff, it's pretty pointless for me to even kind of come in and do it. So it's just a case of like going right, that constant repetition of using your page for what you know works. So it's like for me, nobody really gives a shit about what I'm doing other than kind of what I've got to say. So that's all I do. When it comes to content for me, it's like, right, I'm going to be coming in, I'm just going to be doing talking reels. Like this is the whole point of this device kit, is like, look, just coming in and simply just speaking. And it's like that. Even though, yeah, my page is not high performance in any way, shape or form, it is working for the audience that I need it to. And I think that's something that you have to kind of realize, because people are constantly coming in and chasing followers, when in reality that's not the case. It's a case of making sure that the people who are coming onto the page are people who you want to be working with. Because say for example, like with Ben, when he first started, and I remember the first time he put like a transformation picture up, and I was like, oh my God, it's got no likes. It's killed my page. It's killed my page. And I said, Ben, just leave it on. Just keep you doing your other stuff. And then next thing you know, he's got like fucking 15,000 in coaching inquiries. And I was just like, I said, yeah, temporarily that might drop engagement on your page, but what do you want, engagement or fucking 50 grand a month in bank type stuff? Like, do you know what I mean? It's a case of really kind of coming in and focusing on what your kind of main values are for your kind of page. And it's like with Ben right now, it's like, I totally agree with him. I've never told Ben what to do with social media. I wouldn't fucking dare. Nobody should ever tell someone, like let's say for example, if I have a high performance client with a high performance coaching page, I won't come in and really kind of start fucking them out with their content. I'll just kind of come in and say, right, you need to kind of just keep doing this, and then add in some call to actions. Whereas there's some people, like with me and Cam Mack spoke about it, like before me and him started, his page had basically died for a year. So we had to put a strategy in place to bring that back to life. But for him now, I'm like, mate, whatever you're doing is working absolutely fine, so I keep rinsing and repeating it.
It is, but there's also the point where you rinse and repeat it to a point where it has the adverse effect. So remember the urinal toilet, that the urinal photo I posted hit 105,000 likes, reached.
What's the urinal picture?
In Ultraflex.
Oh yeah.
So that was known as my photo. That whenever I posted it, the engagement would fly, because your page likes that. That's what you've got to look at. I think a lot of people try and grow socials but don't understand them, and you've got to understand that the minute reels are hot. But what you've also seen on social media recently that I bet you don't know is hashtags. I know things not going to be a thing anymore. So
really?
So topics will be a thing, and you've got to move with the time. Like now it's short form content, so shorts on YouTube.
What's the top? What do you mean topics?
So you'll be picking topics for your reels soon, rather than hashtags, because that's going to increase the reach of your reel. Oh,
so they're just basically trying to organise and like segment everything off, so you can go and find specific videos or something like that.
And then you've obviously got your short form content now, so people are producing reels, and they'll put reels out over 30, 40 seconds, and straight away that's a limiting factor. So you'll see that my reels are probably no longer than 10 seconds now, because that increased engagement. And what I also do is make them short and snappy, so you'll see a clip for half a second, because if a consumer's watching that, they're going to have to re-watch it because the clip's that quick. So when the clip's that quick, you're going to have to watch it again. It's like if you see a reel and
so they swipe back onto it. Yeah, fucking hard. God, this is why I don't tell them what to do with social media. That's why I've got 7,000 followers. But yeah, like I've obviously learnt a lot from Michael, like recently, like look, in terms of like adding animation and stuff onto videos now is driving algorithms. But there's loads of little tips and tricks like that, and it genuinely, like if it was a new coach who's kind of coming and listening to this or watching this video, like the best thing I would say to someone is understand content creation and start it as soon as you kind of come into it. Because what happens is when people start coming into coaching, or even kind of down the line, for example, once they've built a decent business, they take the foot off the gas, and they just kind of stop, and they're not as invested into it. And it's a case of, if you want to kind of turn it into kind of the real company structure down the line, then your personal brand is by far the biggest thing that's going to drive the business forwards. Like, for example, yeah, I've got like 4 businesses or whatever, but in reality, people just kind of want to follow it through my page. And I always say, like, social media and your business and client management, it's like 10-pin bowling. Like your Instagram or your YouTube or whatever, it's that front pin. If you've got multiple different avenues and stuff that you want to promote, then all you need to do is focus on smashing that front pin as hard as humanly possible, and everything else will kind of fall over. But it's like mistakes that I made is I was never that front pin. I was focusing on all shit what were going off behind me, and I think that's a big reason why my social media presence hasn't grown like that dramatically. I might actually hit 10k followers this year, or otherwise I will delete Instagram in 2023.
I think it's like with anything in your business, you have a strategy for each avenue. And I think with social media, as you scale as an online coach, yeah, you've got to be involved in that part of your business that drives results and doing your check-ins and doing the mini activities within this, but also you've got to have a strategy for your social media. So I have a separate strategy to YouTube, a separate strategy to Instagram, to TikTok, to YouTube Shorts. And you've got to spend time. The more time you spend investing into that content, probably the greater reward you're going to see. It's like with YouTube Shorts at the minute. You've not got a YouTube, but one bit of advice I could give out to you is after this podcast, why don't you start pushing each of these onto YouTube Shorts? Because in January they're going to...
What, so you can put YouTube Shorts on Instagram now as well?
Yeah, so you can create a YouTube and just put a short on, which is a minute long. You don't have to go to all the extremes now of getting a videographer doing this. You can just go out and put a YouTube short on.
Mate, I struggle to even... I tried that with TikTok. I think I pulled one reel off Instagram, put it on TikTok, and I thought, nah, this is too much effort.
You're just regurgitating all your content.
Yeah, no.
So now I'll do a reel and I regurgitate that onto TikTok. I regurgitate it onto YouTube Shorts. And you've got to think, like, one person might see that on TikTok, that's a potential customer. One person might see that on YouTube Shorts, that's a potential customer. So it's just putting your face as many places you can put it.
Yeah, so, right, obviously, you're at a point now, well, Ben's actually now at a point where he's going to be looking at kind of a bit of an avenue of like a bit of a mentoring style package, which we're kind of helping build at the moment. And when you kind of coming onto this side here, it's like, what would you say that your biggest mistakes have been coming into the kind of fitness industry within a coach, like expanding the coaching team? Like, what would you say, like, you've made like big fucking errors on?
I think the first one is believing in myself, and a huge person who's helped me with that is Josh Cardwell, who you all see. I think you've all got to look at yourself and believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, of course you're going to get imposter syndrome. I still get that now, I'm sure you do. But at the same time, if you don't believe in yourself, how are your clients going to believe in you? The minute I started believing in myself, probably 2 years ago, was the minute when all the success started to come. And I think also just having a routine and being organised. Like, the minute I put a routine in place where the same tasks get done every single day, the non-negotiables get done, generally training at the same time. You saw last year training went to shit, and that's because my routine went to shit. You've got to make sure everything is aligned, what you're doing, because that way nothing's going to slip. If you truly want to be successful, have a very moldable routine. Yeah,
100%. I was speaking about this here, like in terms of environment. Like, for me, I turn into a different beast when I'm at home, kind of in the office, and I've got my setup and I've got my structure and everything else on that side. But it's like when I come out here, I struggle to even pick my laptop up. And it's just because of the environment, it's the setup, it's kind of the process, it's the flow. And when it comes to scaling any type of business, it's that utter obsessive repetition, consistency, and accuracy, kind of focusing on the same points. And that's what Ben's done very, very, very well. It was a case of, right, we're coming in, it's a male lifestyle coaching brand, this is the type of content, this is the target, and we've just drove hard on that as much as humanly possible. And then obviously Ben's now kind of coming to the point where he's expanding out free coaches, don't you? Yeah, free soon to be 4 coaches. I said to Ben, I think I said to Ben about 5 or 6 months ago, I said, like, going into 2023, I would be quite highly confident that Ben should be sitting at around kind of 10 coaches under Ben Bray coaching. Just because, like, what you've got to take into account is, like, it's the scale, I always basically, well, I said this to Ben, I was just like, if in reality, Ben probably should have expanded a coaching team much, much, much sooner. And that's because he didn't really take into account kind of the level of growth phases. And it's like, yeah, Ben's got like four coaches now coming on to like, going into like 5 and 6 and stuff as you go through. But when there's more coaches, there's more clients and there's more results, there's going to be more leads. And as Ben's brand gets bigger, there's going to be more leads. So it's a case of, yeah, he obviously had to hire like 2 and 3 coaches quite fast. Like, when you start scaling, you have to be fucking ready for it. And it's like, that's one thing that I've been very, very obsessed with, like, because obviously Ben's kind of seen all my side blow up. Like, we've literally hit 10, 12 times revenue in the space of 10 months. We've had to be hiring to people's full-time jobs before there's even a job available for them, because if you're not prepared for that, then it will come back and it will trip you up and it'll bite you in the arse. And I've seen it so many times before. So it's a case of like when you look to kind of expand the coaching team and stuff now, like what do you look for them?
I think one, they've got to have the experience. That's massive. How many results have they got? When I first looked for a coach, you said to me they've got to have 50 results. And I think results talk. They're then going to not struggle to get clients and build the brand with you. I think as well as that, education's got to be in a good place. And a massive one for me is we've got to share the same values and have the same vision. Because if someone's coming into my brand to represent what I've built, they've got to be equally invested into that and have the same work ethic, which I struggle with. Because you'll know, as we share a very similar work ethic, and to match that is challenging. But you've also got to be open and appreciate that not everybody is built like that, and you can't be in a way that you treat them differently because they don't match that work ethic.
No, and then one thing is like with Ben, like they've got it absolutely bang on. I said, and I'm 100% adamant on this now, especially as I've worked with kind of more bigger coaching teams and stuff like that. Like the coaches that you bring onto the brand need to fit the look as much as humanly possible as well. Like if you look at all Ben Bray's lads, like they all look very, very, very similar. Like Alex is obviously a bodybuilder, but it's still like short hair, like kind of trim in decent shape. Like it's almost like a replica across coaches, because the referral system will kind of break down it. If someone's, say for example, someone's coming in and they're wanting to work with Ben, and then obviously Ben's busy, but then he's got another coach, but this other coach is doing random fucking endurance, or he doesn't even keep himself in shape, or I know it sounds stupid, but even just looks totally different to Ben, there's going to be no referral kind of going over to that. So obviously, like I'm not saying that they all look like Ben, because Ben's obviously a good-looking chap, and they're all good-looking in their own way and stuff. But it's just a case of like you have to kind of come in and take that side seriously. And when I've said it to people before, they're like, "No, surely not. You can just hire like any coach if they're a good coach." And I said, "No, but I said if they're a good coach and they get the client, that's absolutely sound. But they need to actually want to work with that person in the first place."
I think you've got to ask yourself when taking a coach on as well is how do you want to change their life and what level do you want to bring them to. I see a lot of coaches who will hit, for example, 100 clients themselves and then have 10 coaches under them with like 10, 15 clients. And I think as I bring somebody into my business, as you do yours, you want to change their life. You want them to live the best life they can. So I look at Sergio. We took him from no clients upwards now to 100. Living the best life. He's out in Dubai. He's travelled to Miami with me. Now you've got Alex and Finn already plus 50 clients each. And they've quit their full-time jobs where they was working in gyms as PTs and now full-time online coaches in Dubai with me this week. And I think as you scale, you've got to ask yourself, do you look at revenue, or do you, of course you do, but do you look at the people who are invested in your business and make them happy? Because employee satisfaction is one of the biggest things to build a successful business. Yeah. And over time, if you're not giving that employee what they want, they're going to leave you. So if I built Sergio up to 100 clients and I still don't keep him satisfied, he's a good-looking lad. He's an absolutely incredible coach. He's got a great physique. He could turn around and say, fuck you, Ben.
Yeah, that's one thing I've drove into Ben. I drive into so many people. Like, look, when you start expanding a coaching team out, you need to literally turn around and go, right, this is why I have like an equal opportunity model and everything. Kind of when I kind of take on kind of companies, and I'll say, like, if you get really, really greedy with that client, with that coach, for example, or that, for example, down the line, all it takes is one single bad conversation between you and your coach. That's all it takes. And if they're like, well, I'm only getting 30% per client, and you speak to me like shit, he could come in and go, right, bang, I'm keeping all these clients, fuck off. And you've literally dropped 15, 20 grand a month just simply from not maintaining that relationship with that coach. And this is one thing I've really kind of drove into Ben hard with his side stuff, because he's kind of gone from like a bit of a corporate environment and stuff like that, where he's not really being kind of the boss, he's managed teams and stuff like that. And I said, like, look, it's a bit of a different ball game. This, like, you have to really, really go out your way to make sure people are looked after, because it's not like when you're in a workplace and you're gonna, like, if you get sacked, it's like scary. Whereas it's an easy move for coaches to just go, right, I'm just gonna go on my own, and it does happen, and I've seen it happen time and time again. So, like, in terms of you kind of managing the Ben Bray kind of coaching lads, like what type of touch points and support and structure do you have kind of with them to make sure that they're happy with what they're doing and everything else?
So every single week we meet, first thing Monday morning, we touch base, right? How many calls you got booked? Sergio, how many you got? Alex, how many you got? Finley, okay, brilliant. We meet for an hour. We also go through clients, so we'll look at, right, okay, Ben, how did you get this result? Sergio, how did you get this result? Finley, Alex. So we all know and we all have the same level of understanding and knowledge to get the same level of standard of results. As well as that, I spend an hour a week with Sergio, an hour a week with Finlay and Alex, all on separate calls. We talk around, first of all, to set that call up, we talked about vision planning. So we created a skeleton plan of, right, okay, Sergio, where do you want to be in 6 months? What financial revenue do you want to be earning? How do you think we're going to get there? And what actions is it going to require to get you there? So we then built a structure internally at Bray Coaching in order to scale Sergio like we did, in order to scale Alex, and in order to scale Finn. And then as the founder of the brand, I've got to ask myself, am I doing enough? And I'll be honest, over the last 4, 5, 6 months, I've declined some of those meetings and pushed them back. And when I came to Dubai, I took a step back and was like, right, okay, these are a priority because these staff within my business are generally kind of preaching my name and my brand and their brand. I need to make sure they're the happiest, so we have incentives in place now. So transformation of the month. Out of the 3 coaches, whoever gets the best transformation gets a nice incentive financially. They're in Dubai at the minute, so we create content. It's a business investment, so I cover all that. Hopefully get to take them all out for food. And I think you've just got to look at yourself and say, if I was employed, and I don't see them as kind of employed. I just see them as online coaches who share the same values and the same ethos as me. And together we're a team, because I believe as a team you're stronger and you're going to create a greater brand, and that's why I scaled.
Yeah, definitely. It's like one thing that Ben's really good at, kind of when he's in his flow and gets like his management side as well. Like I had a conversation the other day and he was like, said, oh yeah, I've kind of brought in these different kind of touch points into the client side. Like, do you want to run over that? Because I think some people literally do just kind of come in and go, right, yeah, here's your check-in, here's your diet changes, I'll kind of see you later. But do you want to just basically explain kind of your own personal check-in process and touch points with kind of client as a bit of a finishing point? Because I think it's really important for people to kind of know what type of detail that you need to go in to actually support each individual client to be coming in and running the type of numbers that you are. And obviously it's just kind of spreading that out as the company expands and making sure you maintain that value.
Yeah, so from the onboarding sequence, what I do is initially I send them an onboarding video. I send that both on True Coach and on WhatsApp. And the reason I send it on WhatsApp is because I want acknowledgement that they've understood everything. From that point, the get-go, they're off. Within the first 2 days, I will send them a message, how are you getting on? So that's them 2 days into a plan to get a check-in. How are you? How are you getting on? Yeah, perfect. The first week, they'll have an initial check-in. We'll talk through the skeleton plan again, the vision plan, and we'll say, right, okay, how do you think the first week's gone? I then send them a calendar link. If they want a call within the first week, I'm open to a call. Because I feel like when you will retain a client is within that first 7 to 21 days. If they're struggling, you give them an opportunity to then jump on another call and talk through problems. Your retention is probably going to be higher because they can see that personal touch. As well as a check-in a week, they get 2 touch points through True Coach. So I will message them twice in the week, asking how they get on. Some clients reply, some don't, but you're being there as a coach, providing that support and that guidance, again, showing a massive amount of investment. And if I can do this with the client numbers I'm running, any coach in the UK can do it. So I think a lot of people, as they scale, will see the numbers, they'll see the financials, and they'll lose that personal touch. As well as that, we have a team call. As well as that, I have a photo shoot team call. Yeah. So I'm on calls every single week with them. I'm giving them further education, further knowledge. But most importantly, what I think I've done well is build a community with clients. So Alex has his own calls with his clients, Sergio, Finlay, and then we have a community call once a month as well.
Yeah, one thing is missed off there as well. Like Ben has like individual day like check-in sheets, and the amount of coaches that I know, so say for example, like they go, oh, my client never checks in or something like that, and they just kind of go, they allow it to kind of happen. Like if a client doesn't check in with Ben, then he's got a tick list at the end of each day, and he'll follow. He told me, and he'll follow up with him. But the thing is, like, yeah, it might. The silly way to look at it is thinking, oh yeah, I ain't got as many check-ins to do that day. Because in reality, if someone don't check in for 2 weeks, then their accountability is shit. You're not even providing a service. They're not really going to be paying you much longer for that. So simply just having them as like kind of a bit of a follow-up and a bit of a kick up in the ass, because like, God, I've done it myself. Even with my business, I sometimes don't even check in on it. Do you know what I mean? When you're kind of going through the flow and you're going through life and business and that, like, it's hard, and you need to be kind of having someone to keep you accountable. So like, I suppose generally one tip that I would kind of make is like not only having the kind of sheets to split across like, look, individual days, because it's like I've Darren Farrell next, and he used to be doing all his check-ins on a Saturday. He was like for 14 hours straight check-ins once per week, and then not having a weekend. And I was like thinking about, right, how can you scale it from there? Split your clients across the week. Follow up with them if they're not checking in. Have multiple kind of touch points. And as you start building this out, and this is one thing that we're kind of doing with a lot of the kind of clients and stuff at the moment, is with the customer journey and the Miro map that we kind of create, we've got an onboarding automation sequence and obviously like a service sequence as well. So like down the line, when you are running bigger numbers, it is going to be difficult to do manual kind of follow-ups for people. But as you can do other bits, you can get a VA to come and help, and you can get a PA to help you. But you can also automate the shit out of it. And that's what, in terms of kind of maintaining client numbers and retention, it's like the main touch points and value that the business has or the coach has with their clients will be the one thing that will keep them in the mix. So it's a case of don't be ever getting to the point of going, right, you've got to get into that 1 week check-in, sound right, I'm going to speak to you next week. Or if they miss a check-in, you don't speak to a client for 2 weeks, like you're not going to be scaling business like that. You're going to be losing a lot of clients really quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a massive point. Don't ever look at your check-in list and think, oh, client's not checked in, buzzing. You've got to look at that list, and if they've not checked in. So I have basically a 3-point colour system. So I have green, I have amber, and I have red. So green's checked in, amber's late, and then red is completely missed. So at the end of each day, I'll just look through that list. If it's amber, I know on the next check-in I'm saying, look, why is your punctuality poor? Why are you're checking in late? And then on the amber, you get a ×2 if it's late again, and a ×3, and you have those conversations. I think as a coach, you've got to be there for clients, but you've also got to, and one thing I absolutely learned from you is you was the first coach I ever had who, one, never complimented me, but two, was to tell me straight,
yeah,
where's your check-in, Ben? Oh, I'm doing it in 10 minutes. Well, your deadline's 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then straight away I was like, ooh, backs up against a wall all of a sudden. I need to be showing this guy that I'm invested. And I think a lot of clients will appreciate that. As a coach, you've got to set the standard and set the expectations early on, and that's what I do on the onboarding video. Client expectations, coach expectations, and set the bar.
Nice one. Right, we'll wrap that one up now. We've obviously got the coach convention kind of coming up. We've pretty much kind of come into the industry, hit it together, and we both said, like, look, if we play his cards right, we can do something very, very kind of special with this. And everything that we've kind of said from day one, we have actually somehow pulled it off. And we're basically kind of getting to the point now where we're both in very, very good positions, and it's a case of like kind of really thinking long term, where can you take this to on a real, like, serious, big kind of company level stuff. And I think we're well on track, mate. So thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, mate.